Welcome to this custom deep dive. Is the electricity powering your home right now like just a product you buy, or is it an actual fundamental human right? Because down in Mexico, this battle over unpaid power bills just escalated all the way to constitutional rights.
Yeah, it is a huge shift. Today we are looking at a newly published legal precedent. It is Thesis 23-8817, which just dropped on February 27th, 2026.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this because this ruling fundamentally changes the legal DNA of basic utilities.
It really does. And to see how radical this shift is, we kind of have to look at the catalyst. You had everyday citizens basically leveraging an amparo, which is, a constitutional protection lawsuit.
Oh, right. To stop the CFE, Mexico's Federal Electricity Commission.
Exactly. They wanted to stop the CFE from unilaterally shutting off their power over unpaid bills. So they asked the courts for a provisional suspension to, keep the lights on while the billing dispute was actively litigated.
Which makes sense, but the CFE pushed back hard on that, right? They argued this was strictly a commercial dispute, like just a mercantile issue.
Yeah.
Exactly, just a
Yeah.
standard contract.
The CFE is essentially arguing that electricity is like a premium streaming service.
Hmm.
If you do not pay the bill, well, they cut the feed. It's just business.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the citizens dismantled that purely contractual defense. I mean, they focused on the actual biological reality of modern life.
Right, because losing power isn't just an inconvenience.
No, not at all. They argued that losing electricity immediately threatens fundamental rights. We are talking about decent housing, health, security, and just, minimum living conditions.
Yeah, think about your own house right now. If the utility company flips that switch, your fridge dies and your food spoils. Medical devices stop running.
Security systems just go dark.
Exactly. The citizens were basically saying, you are treating this like a canceled Netflix account, but it's actually an artificial ventilator. You can't just pull the plug on a contract dispute when that plug is literally keeping the patient alive.
That is such a good analogy. And that causal link is what forced the courts to look beyond standard commercial law. I do have to play devil's advocate for a second, though. I mean, I kind of see the CFE's point here. They have to generate the power, maintain the grid, pay their workers.
Sure, they have massive operating costs.
Right. So if electricity is suddenly a human right, does that mean the utility company is legally required to just provide it for free forever if someone refuses to pay? Like, how does a court bypass a state utility's right to collect revenue?
Well, that is the crucial tension the 20th Collegiate Tribunal in Administrative Matters had to resolve. This was on December 3rd, 2025. And the judges weren't saying electricity is free.
Oh, okay. So what was the actual legal justification then?
They were weighing the immediate mechanics of a shutoff against Article 128 of the Amparo Law. That specific article requires judges to evaluate if executing an act causes irreversible damage.
Okay, wait. Here's where it gets really interesting. How does a judge legally quantify irreversible damage when we are, literally just talking about a power bill?
By completely separating the financial debt from the human toll. The tribunal voted unanimously against the CFE because of causality.
So it's all about the timeline of the harm.
Exactly. If you cut the power today, the harm to a person's subsistence and basic living conditions happens immediately.
Right, because you can't get that time back.
Exactly. Even if the citizen eventually pays the bill or, wins the lawsuit months later, you cannot retroactively undo the days or weeks they spent without refrigeration, heat, or running water.
Wow. So the damage to their human dignity is already consummated.
Precisely. Preserving human dignity and integrity legally overrides the purely financial background of the dispute.
So the money can be recovered later, but basic human welfare cannot just be put on pause.
Exactly. That shifts the entire dispute. It basically transcends the contractual plane and acquires full constitutional relevance.
Right. The social interest preventing immediate irreparable harm just outweighs the financial mechanics of a mercantile contract. So what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, it means the law is explicitly recognizing that your access to basic utilities in the modern world is not just a simple consumer transaction.
It is inextricably linked to your fundamental human rights. The era of treating essential power as a mere commodity you can just switch off is ending.
Which leaves us with a really compelling precedent to think about.
Definitely. What is the final takeaway here?
Well, if the courts have ruled that electricity cannot be unilaterally cut because it's an absolute prerequisite for basic human dignity and security, how long until we see this exact same legal argument successfully applied to internet access?
Oh, wow. That is a wild thought.
Right. I mean, if power isn't just a product, maybe the connection keeping you plugged into the modern world isn't either.